Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to ARBI's Living with Hope After Brain Injury, the Role of Community event. We're so grateful you've joined us today for this special gathering, a time to reflect, connect, and stand in community with survivors of brain injury. Before we begin, just a few quick housekeeping notes. In the event of emergency, we just wanted to let you know our muster point is outside at the parking lot. All exits are clearly marked, so please take a moment to locate the one nearest to you. Also, a very important note that this event is being live streamed, so to ensure accessibility to those who couldn't attend in person. If you're not comfortable appearing on camera or any photos, my friend here, she's hiding. This is the person to talk to. And we will make sure that none of our social materials go up with your photos in it. And the camera is just behind you. So we are opening the camera so our community or clients or survivors, caregivers who didn't have means to come to ARBI tonight and join us could watch and ask questions live as well to our wonderful panelists. So yeah, if you don't feel comfortable being in that shot, please. And so as we gather in community today, we want to take a moment to ground ourselves in reflection and gratitude. We'll begin with a land acknowledgement, a moment to honor the Indigenous peoples who have cared for this land, past, present, and future.
Those of us that are continuing our oral history are blessed. What we shared, that was told from way back.
We were part of the ecosystem. We were not masters of it.
You know, after we grow up from our biological mothers, the earth becomes our caregiver. Everything that we need is there.
We were raised to believe that everything has a spirit and that everything around us is alive and has a purpose.
The spirit of the land and our spirit. You can't separate land and people.
In Treaty 7 territory, I'm accepted, I'm something, and I'm with my people.
We honor our ancestors by acknowledging Treaty 7 territory. We acknowledge the Treaty 7 nations, the Piikani First Nation, the Siksika First Nation, the Kainai First Nation, the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, and the Tsuut'ina First Nation. We acknowledge the ancestral territory of the Siksikaitsitapi, the Blackfoot Confederacy, and the home of Métis Region number 3.
Thank you. I was so excited to start this program, I didn't even introduce myself. Some of you know me. My name is Aubrey. I'm the Director of Operations, People and Culture here at ARBI. And this is our incredible team who's wearing the same shirt as I am. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach any of us. And to continue our program here, I'd also just quickly and more importantly like to thank the incredible supporters who helped make today possible. A special thank you to Adam right here, our AV guy, Visual Gab, who generously powered today's live stream. We're so grateful for their partnership in making this event more accessible and impactful. And now it's my absolute pleasure to introduce someone who continues to lead with heart and conviction, an unwavering advocate for survivors, and a passionate voice for brain injury awareness. Please join me in welcoming our Executive Director, Nora Molina.
Thank you, Aubrey. Thanks for the introduction. And just a huge thanks to Aubrey, the whole team, Aubrey was the mastermind behind today's event and has just been an incredible driver in making today possible. And just the team effort that brought everything together. If you'd seen what was moving and happening here earlier today, it took a lot. I also would like to just for a moment give acknowledgement to our board directors who are here in the room. And if I could ask you as I call your name to please stand up, and I promise I'm not going to forget anybody this time. I'll start with our board chair, Dr. Alec Hilliard. Thank you, Alec. Next to Alec is Val Hilario, one of our board directors as well. On the other side of the room, I have Janet Salopek, one of our new board directors, and perfect. And I now have eyes on our other Janet, Janet Russell, who's in the middle of the room. Thank you, Janet, for jumping into the middle seat there as well. I think that's it. Is there anyone else? Any other board directors? Okay, no, good. I have made that embarrassing mistake of not announcing my board directors. So having done that, we'll move on to the program. And I'd like to introduce our panelists. We have been displaying their bios on screen through the introductory of this program. So I'm not going to go through the formal reading of that. I hope you've taken that opportunity. But I'm going to move just sort of across from the furthest end away from me is Aroha. And she is one of our client currently here at ARBI. And she's going to be sharing her story with us in a moment from her recovery from stroke. And next to Aroha, we have Francis. And Francis is the spouse of one of ARBI's former clients, currently engaged in some of our activities through Fame Group, and that's Julie, who's here right at the front of the room, not putting you on the spotlight, Julie. But Julie and Francis have been regulars here for quite some time through Julie's rehabilitation and continued engagement. We also have Dr. Ducalo. Thank you very much, Dr. Ducalo, for joining us today. You have some considerable history with ARBI, and we'll talk more about that through the questions. And also Sarah, who is our psychologist here with ARBI and has been a part of ARBI's wellness team for quite some time. And then we have Dr. Ted O'Connors, and he is one of ARBI's former clients as well, through rehabilitation a couple of years ago now, and has continued engagement through some activities with us, and we're pleased to have you here today, Ted, as well. Thank you. Okay, so living with hope after brain injury and the role of community is what we're here to talk about today. And, I will add one thing, that when I came to ARBI and first started to get to know the people here, one of the things that I heard most often mentioned was community and the uniqueness of the community that is ARBI. And we're going to talk more about that today. I actually want to start my first question, and I'm going to look to Sarah. And Sarah, if I'm correct, I think you've been working with ARBI for 14 years, maybe? Okay, yeah, all right. 13, we're heading towards 14, we're trucking towards 14. So you've been supporting individuals and families at ARBI since 2012. What brought you to this work, and what keeps it meaningful for you today?
I think this is on. We didn't do a test. Is that better? Can you hear me? Yeah. So what brought me to brain injury was an internship, actually, at the Halvard Johnson Center for Brain Injury. So I was like a fresh-faced 21-year-old undergrad and walked onto my first brain injury unit. Had no experience with brain injury or stroke, no family history that I'd had encountered, but walked onto, and for those of you that have been to Halvard Johnson, at that time it was called Alberta Hospital Ponoka, so I am dating myself, but encountered brain injury for the first time and fell in love with the community. And so ironically, it's that same community that keeps me here, because it's this beautiful population, often misunderstood, a smaller one, right? And so I think we don't always have the same volume or numbers and maybe research dollars and things like that. But nonetheless, a beautiful and hopeful community, and that's what keeps me after all those years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Dr. Ducalo, from your experience, how did individuals typically find their way to ARBI after brain injury? But maybe I'll first ask, what was your first connection with ARBI?
It was Marian Ostapovich came and sought me out at Foothills, probably not very long after I started in 2008. and told me the story of how ARBI came to be, and it was a bit heart-wrenching, and then talked about the work that was done here, and asked me if I would volunteer to help out with a fundraiser at the Petroleum Club. And I grew up in a very blue-collar town, Windsor, Ontario, car manufacturing, and I'd never seen anything like the Petroleum Club when I set foot in it. Reminded me, for those of you old enough in the room, reminded me of something out of the TV show Dallas.
Yes.
Which is, yeah.
Good analogy, yes.
Yeah, and so I helped out with some fundraisers, and of course over the years I've had a number of patients who come to ARBI and benefit from what happens here.
Yeah, thank you. So you mentioned that in terms of people coming to ARBI. Why do you believe this kind of support is so critical for their recovery?
So, it's interesting. Over the years, things have changed. I'll give a little bit of history. When I started as a neuroscientist, so I have a PhD in neuroscience, and then I'm a specialist in physical medicine and rehabilitation, so I'm a rehab doc. But when I started my PhD in the 90s, the current thinking was that the brain was not plastic. It was like a piece of concrete, and it didn't change after you had an injury. And that all changed as we got into the mid to late 90s, and we realized there was this thing called neuroplasticity, and we could guide that neuroplasticity. And in the late 90s and the early 2000s, we thought that that neuroplasticity was really only there for the first few months after someone had a stroke or a brain injury. And in the last 10 years, we've realized that it's there lifelong. And, one of the challenges we have in the current healthcare system, in the publicly funded healthcare system, is that we fund things out for the first few months. You have inpatient stays for brain injury and stroke that last 40 or 50 days, and then we have outpatient programs that are funded to have someone come for about 8 to 12 weeks in a lot of cases. And then, I'm sorry, but there's nothing. And we fight and we fight and we fight to try to get more resources, but we can't. But there is ARBI. And so what a lot of my patients do is they access the ARBI program either after they're discharged from our community accessible rehab program in Calgary, or after they've been discharged from the Halvard Johnson Center, or some come from afar and from places outside of Calgary, and they show up in clinic. We see them and we refer them on to ARBI to get services. Why do we do that? Because the brain continues to change. There's still hope. There is still the possibility we can take someone who isn't walking and get them walking, who isn't moving their arm, get them moving their arm, and to work on some of the cognitive and language issues that patients have. So there's a significant place for ARBI in our rehabilitation community in Calgary and in southern Alberta.
So thank you very much for that. I'm going to go over to Aroha. Aroha, when you had your stroke, I understand you didn't know what was happening. And you've said that not understanding made that even more frightening. Can you tell us about that moment and how finding ARBI helped you better understand your recovery and find the path forward?
Karanga mai, karanga mai, karanga mai. Te mari ko matatanga o te rangi te arai tōtō kore o te wakatā ki te mue. Karanga mai, karanga mai. Karanga mai. And I started with the Māori karanga because I'm inviting my ancestors to be a part of this discussion. Nice. And they're part of the rehab for me and the journey. And so coming to ARBI, of course, and it's funny, well, it's not funny, but my daughter here is the one who saved my life. Oh. We were sitting having a discussion at home, and I like to sit and talk with my kids at the end of each day. And she was telling me about her day at school, and she's a teacher at the school and principal of the school. And all of a sudden she said, "What's wrong, Mum?" And I said, "Oh no, my arm is tingling." And then she said, "Mum, are you all right?" And I guess she could explain it better. I'm only explaining it secondhand because I didn't know what was happening. And then my speech was slurring, and she said, "Mum, I think I should call the ambulance. I think you're having a stroke." And I didn't know anything about a stroke, I'd never been with a family member who'd had a stroke. I knew nothing. And when I actually went into the hospital, and my first question was, what's wrong with me? What am I doing here? And the doctor says, oh, you've had a stroke. And so there wasn't any pain in my body or anything when I had a stroke. I was just kind of blacking out, and I guess I call myself not a survivor, but one of the unlucky people. I'm lucky because I have my speech, and although they said, oh, you know, you've had a hemorrhage in your brain and it's wiped out your brain cells, and I said, I think I'm thinking okay. And I said, do they come back? And they said, no, once your brain cells have gone, they're gone. And I suppose one of the things about all that information, and one of the things I clearly remember at the hospital was my kids coming up to me and saying, oh, Mum, the doctor said, should they drill a hole in your head to stop the hemorrhaging? And I said, how the hell do I know? I mean, what kind of question is that? I mean, who wants a hole drilled in their head, for one thing? And that was the start of, well, not the start, it was part of the journey, but I've been through hardships in my life which I think have helped prepare me for being one of the lucky unluckies. And I have a son who's 43 now. He was born at 24 weeks. He was my first child, and he was 1 pound 3 ounces. So I've lived my life raising my son, and my house is designed and set up for him to be able to participate in our household fully. And never knowing that I was really setting it up for myself, because now I get like wide doors in my house and got an elevator and I can go up and down. But on my journey through the stroke thing, and I had a stroke in, when did I have it, Ngātai? May 1st. Yeah, she knows.
Yeah.
My kids wrote a diary of what happened each day. And they said, oh, Mum could sit up today, or Mum peed today, or whatever it was. But
Milestones, those are important.
yeah, but actually being able to go through all that, and along the way, and I went to the Fanning Centre, and then they mentioned ARBIs. And what the thing about ARBIs is, for me, is it provided a purpose for my life each day. Because no matter what, for me, there's no going backwards. Mm-hmm. What was, and it's, and I think having a routine and a place to go and a family to be with, that's what ARBIs provides for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Aroha.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Francis. Francis, could you share how your family first became connected with ARBI and what the difference has made for you as a caregiver?
It started about 5 years ago when Julie gone through a 12 hours brain surgery, and at the end of it, she got a stroke. She was an active person. And then when she got a stroke, and
Is the mic on?
yeah. And then from the hospital, she was transferred to Fanning.
Francis, this
Baby
just put it
swap.
up to your mouth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Point it this way. Well,
And then
not quite, but just hold it the direction.
Then she was down in
Wonderful.
Fanning. They have a little bit of exercise, but not too much. Then she's a very determined person. She wants to exercise. And then physiotherapists there say, I refer you to ARBI. We don't know what is ARBI that time, right? And then he said, came back, oh, you were not accepted because you have a tumor surgery. Then she said she will appeal because she's a good candidate for ARBI. So she stayed in Fanning for 3 months, then she was transferred to a long-term care. On the last day, the PT was running to us. ARBI approved. You have to go to ARBI now.
Thanks.
Then we started, then we came over according to the letter appointment, we came. And the first thing we saw as we entered the entrance, there's a logo that says that a journey of 1,000 steps start with one. We like it so much. Then we start the exercise in ARBI. And in ARBI, because Julie is a very determined person, she worked very hard and oh, okay. Sorry. She improved. And within 3 months, she could stand up. She could stood up and walk 1 or 2 steps and all these things. And then, because the exercise was so intensive, like 1 week, 3 times, 2 hours a day, you know, that kind of thing. Then that's how she improved. So to us, ARBI is something that we really think is the best. Yeah.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you. Ted, my question for you, you've really turned your journey into advocacy, helping others understand brain injury through social media and writing and sharing your story. What was it about your time at ARBI that inspired you to start sharing that story?
Well, I'm thinking the first thing I have to say is, whose fault is it that I have to come last after these superheroes? But I'll do what I can, And I suppose what inspired me about my time at ARBI, I'm thinking I suppose I often think about how lucky I am to be here, just to be, I think as my good friend knew about, I had no idea about it beforehand. I was aware of what strokes and brain injury was, but I didn't know what happened after that. And now that I was in it, I was like, what happens next? And then ARBI happened next, and I'm like, oh, I was delighted with that. And my 6 or 9 months I spent there was fantastic, just teaching me how to re-enter into the world. And it just gave me some good foundational skills. And I suppose, as you can see, I hobbled up on my canes. I suppose when the injury occurred, Christmas Eve 21, I fell 3 stories and broke no bone but my skull. And I think the surgeon informed my partner at the time, she's now my best friend, that if he's alive within 4 days, if he's not brain dead within 4 days, he will be a lifelong mentally retarded and never be able to walk or talk again. And then everything since then has just been a little win. So I've just been adding to that and then just sharing that with anybody who could benefit from, I suppose like Manny would be forgiven for just feeling sorry for herself after going through something like this. But like, I have so many great things available to me here, especially here. And it's like, ARBI is one massive part of that. But there's so many good people out there and they've all shown up for me.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you. Aroha, I'm going to come back to you. Even after your stroke, you mentioned your son earlier, and I know that even after your stroke that you've continued to be the mom that you've always been, showing up for your family and caring for your son. How have you been able to stay involved in that family care system? And what's one thing that you kept doing before and after the stroke that helped you stay strong?
I have 6 children. My son was born at 24 weeks, 1 pound 3 ounces. And all my life I've cared for him. And I know when he was little, and people say, you know, maybe he needs to be put in a home. And I said, he is in a home, he's in my home. And I said, and he's surrounded by people who love him. And that's the difference for me. So he's now 43 years old, came from a boy that was 1 pound 3 ounces and in an incubator for the first 6 months of his life. And I developed a system when my kids were very young. I'm the mum who organises everybody and everything. And so when they were young, I used to have my son be one of the chores in the house. So they had to either do the dishes or clean the floor or look after Beta. And when they were little, the job for looking after Beta meant they had to put his clothes out the next day and put on the railing so that I would be able to change his clothes. And as they got older, the chores changed. Right, now you're going to make sure that he eats his breakfast. So they would feed him breakfast. And then as they got older, and they were probably about 7 or 8 years old, they had to shower him. And so they put him in the shower. And so now that my children are all adults and they have their own homes, they still have him as one of the chores. And so each sister takes him for a week. And every Monday he changes houses and he goes to each sister. And their job is to, and he's still in a wheelchair. He doesn't walk or talk. And so I'm also part of that roster. And so now physically I can't pick him up or change him or the things that I've always done. So my daughter and her husband and their 2 children stay with me in my home, and they've been very good at getting him up out of bed and changing his pamper and getting him dressed. So although I can't physically do that, I still participate in my contribution to physically looking after him by doing what I do best, which is ordering other people around. I know, yes. But organising them to do those things for me. So I still participate, but I've just had to change the way that I do that.
Sounds like you keep doing what moms do, right?
And it is what mums do. And for caregivers and that, I have so much admiration for you, for the patience that you have, for whoever you're helping to look after and that. And I've got to say that ARBI's kind of is like that for me, like it's a caregiving role. And if you weren't here, I'd have to think of something else to do 2 mornings a week. And I was thinking, it's not so bad going to ARBI's, you know, they do exercise with me every day and stuff. But I think that ARBI's is a necessary thing in people's journey, because I'm fortunate in that I have I'm surrounded by family. And even the caregivers that I have helping to look after me, they're a part of my family. And in ARBI's, I think that you've become a family to me, part of my family. And so part of that whole thing is if you're family, you have a responsibility to look after each other. And I feel that coming to ARBI's gives people who may not have family around them to have a family that will say, we do care. And I was listening to you, Francis, and your wife, and she's walking that. Well, I'm not walking yet, and my left side is still paralysed, but gee, when I come in this building and I see people walking down the hallway or something like that, oh God, it's such a booster for me. Yes. I kind of think, oh God, if they can do it, I can do it too. I just have to.
Exactly right. Thank you, Aroha. Ted, I'm going to come back with a question for you, Ted. A brain injury can change how someone sees themselves. How did you rebuild your sense of identity and purpose during your recovery?
Ooh, I suppose I've always known that I've been lucky to have all of the things I've already been given, and I know not to just look back at those and crave for those, just make the most of what I have right now. And now that I have ARBI, I'm delighted to be here. And I suppose rebuilding myself a purpose, I suppose, is I know that I've always had, there's a part of me, even though there was a big part of me wanted to always make money and do the next thing, do the next thing, do the next thing. Then I come into, after this injury, I was like, okay, there's more things to life than just making money. And I came to ARBI and I saw, I really loved how everybody here was just treating me like a normal human. There's none of this, oh, I'm so sorry for you, I'm so sorry for you. Yeah, I'm not that sorry for myself because I did it myself, but yeah, like it's, everybody just treating me like a human, just really nice to me. And that was part of it, just for me, just knowing that everybody was able to talk to me like, okay, you're Ted with brain injury and you're here to get better. All right, so I don't have to feel sorry for you. And, yeah, that was a big part, just knowing that people don't feel sorry for me, just get on with the work. Yeah.
Well said. Thank you. Sarah, you've supported both survivors and caregivers through the emotional ups and downs of recovery. In your experience, what kinds of support make the biggest difference for each of them as they try to rebuild their lives and identities?
Yeah, I think Dr. Duclos alluded to it, but brain injury is a lifetime injury, and what's beautiful about this community is that people do recover. So this is the hope piece, but the reality is that there are persisting deficits. Again, maybe not the same severity or extent several years later, but I think a place like ARBI recognizes that. They see that it's slow and small and insidious gains that make the big ones maybe 2 or 3 or 5, or maybe even 10 years later. And so those wraparound, comprehensive supports kind of for longer than what we typically see kind of 2 or 3 years in our healthcare system is really, I think, what ARBI's been all about, and I think why I can always stay on board here, because they recognize that even although there are changes that last, beyond those few years, these are still things that we can work on, still things that get better. And that's for both brain injury survivors as well as their caregivers. I think when I say comprehensive and wraparound, what we know from a research perspective is that people that are well supported actually rehab better. So there's that. But then vice versa is that if we care for caregivers, if we do a really good job at digging into the people that care for our survivors, we're kind of bolstering the whole system. And so wraparound also includes caring for caregivers, and ARBI has done that, I think, exceptionally well over the last few years. We started many years ago with really looking at what caregiver resources and community supports look like. I think came out of a traditional, like a neuro program model where we just have, PT, OT, but really looked at what does social work and psychology and other therapies look like for clients so that we can rebuild all aspects of their lives, emotional and cognitive and the physical pieces as well. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Francis, I want to come back to you and ask you, after Julie's stroke, your daily routine changed completely from partner to full-time caregiver. What did that shift in routine look like for you, and how has it affected you emotionally over time?
Oh, it's very emotional. You just don't even have time to think too much about it. You just keep on helping her, and the only time you have for yourself is maybe during the evening time. That's where the things say, oh, I'm terrible. I'm feeling very lonely. But then you have family. your family support you. So that's how I go through all those days with the family support. Yeah, I even have friends who call me every day to check on me, to make sure I'm okay.
One thing I remember, Francis and Julie, is that Julie's celebration at the end of her rehab, I think, was the largest showing of family and friends that I've seen come out for one of those events. And I remember meeting your neighbors and
Yes.
your son and daughter that flew out from Ottawa,
Yeah.
and that support of your family
Yes.
was really visible that day. I
Yeah.
do remember that. And I remember Julie dancing in the video.
Yeah. So those are the things that keep me going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Ducalo, we know recovery looks different for everyone, and it doesn't end when someone leaves the hospital, as we've been talking about. From a medical and rehabilitation perspective, what have you seen that helps people continue to progress once they're home or in the community?
Hope. Hard work. Right? One of the things that I hope more and more people are hearing after they have a stroke or brain injury in the hospital, and that their families are hearing, is this whole concept of neuroplasticity in the brain or the spinal cord rewiring itself happens because of what you do. And if you stop doing things, that level of neuroplasticity starts to shut down. And so when you realize that it's going to be a long haul, that you're going to have to put in the time, you're going to have to do the work, you can kind of wrap your head around, okay, this is what I have to do to get better. And when I see patients who come through who aren't able to do that, who get depressed, who have challenges accepting that, it becomes difficult for them to reach their full potential. I mean, I do all sorts of stuff in the research lab, from trying to stimulate the brain with fancy magnets to giving people, novel medications to try to help with recovery, to using robotic devices. And none of those things work unless the patient puts in the effort and has this motivation and the mindset that they are going to get better from this.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to kind of focus our questions now around the role of community. Aroha, you had shared about the support from your family and how that has helped you in caring for your son. What does that kind of community support mean to you? Beyond your family, and I understand as well the reserve, how has it helped you stay connected to what matters most?
The Crowchild family, and I live on the Sutuna Reserve. I've lived here for, my son is 45 years. And so very much a part of the Sutuna Nation. And when I got into the Fanning Centre, one of the things that I thought of when I was in there was that, we should have something like this on the reserve. I'm going to advocate for this when I get back to the reserve. And I think on the reserve, they've done some great things for the community. And I had to be sick to find out that they did all these things, because I didn't even know they did half the things, like I can get medical transportation to come here. I kind of bullied myself into ARBI's, because Fanning Centre I said, what do I do when I get home? They said, these are these ARBI's, and they do physio, they can do physio and OT with you. So when I got home, I thought, no one's given me a call, I don't know. So I rang up and I said, excuse me, I'm waiting to get into ARBI's. And then they said, you're on a waiting list or something. I said, well, by the time I get in there, I'll either be dead or I'll be walking by myself. So, I kind of bullied myself into getting in here. But when you say community, I think the Sutuna Nation have done some remarkable things in the community, and I'm a community person, and I'm a team person. So I surround myself with people who are going to be on my team. And my success is their success. And that's why I invite my ancestors to come by doing a karanga, because they're looking at me now saying, come on, girl, get yourself up and moving and everything. I grew up with a mother, when things got tough, she used to say, when things get tough, girl, you go in the bathroom and you have a good cry, and then you wash your face and you wipe your face, and then you roll your sleeves up and you get back out and do the work.
Yeah.
And I find that they're coming to ARBI's, it's being among people who know what you're doing. You know, like people go, well, you know, if you move this moves this muscle or whatever it is. And I can take good guesses. I'm not bad at guessing how to do things. And I'm a solution solver, but at least being with people who go, if you're doing this, this will help this muscle strengthen up. And they go, oh, would you like to do this exercise, Aroha? And I said, tell you the truth, I don't want to do any exercises. I said, didn't used to do exercises when I was well. Now that I'm sick, you think I want to do exercises? So it's best you just tell me what to do, and I'll try my best to do what you're telling me, because I trust that you know what you're talking about. And I do trust in the roles that you play in my life. I do trust what you're saying. Believe me, if I didn't trust you, I'd tell you. I'd say, no, I think you're on the wrong track there. But that's what I think ARBI's provides, is, you know, like people with knowledge of you know, because even listening to that lady at the beginning with their brain thing, I think that's awesome. I was thinking I'm going to line up for one for my son, you know, and to think that it almost reads thoughts, because he doesn't talk. One of the things that he's good at is video games, and one of the video games that he loves is Grand Theft Auto. Okay. And for people who know that game, it's not the best game. I mean, they swear in there, and I thought, oh, God, the first word that might come out of my son's mouth is one of the swear words that they say on that video game. But, yeah, Gil, we're going to line up and give that thing a bash and see. But that's what community does. It's a team effort, and community is very important. But I think the other thing too is recognise the small achievements, which I've done with my son. So it took him 6 years to learn how to use a spoon. And we recognise, you know, like every little thing we recognise. And since I've been sick, I don't kind of recognise my own successes as much as I used to with my son. And the ladies always go, oh, you know, you've improved, and you can open your hands now, or you can stand up a little bit longer, and that's the hope thing that it provides for you.
Yes,
But
thank you.
Community most important.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Aroha. Ted, you've used your voice to build awareness and connection online. And I know you mentioned to us earlier, I think you have some friends watching from Australia right now on our live stream.
I've been told, yes.
Thank you. In your personal life, what role has community or peer support played in your recovery?
Everything. But I will say, obviously, being part of the community here at ARBI has been fantastic. Like, and I alluded to it earlier, that they just treated me as a regular human to try to recover for something, and they've been giving me all the skills to get back to being a normal human again. But on top of all of that, I've been a part of the Calgary Canadian Irish Rugby Athletic Club. Played rugby there for a few years, and a few of the guys came to visit me in the hospital, and a few of them have come over to the house, and they've been all very good to me. And you know, just that community has just been fantastic for me. It's just been very much there for me when I needed somebody else that wasn't clinical or anything like that. So yeah, they've been great. They have been great. So yeah, that and ARBI, of course, because ARBI has been fantastic. So I'm not quite as loquacious as I was before, but that's all I can say right now.
Thank you, Ted.
Loquacious enough.
Francis, caregiving can feel isolating at times, but it can also reveal who's there for you. What kind of community support made a meaningful difference to you and Julie?
Well, a lot of things, but the main thing is we are so engrossed in coming to ARBI, like she's always saying, oh, are we going to ARBI soon? That kind of thing, keep her going. Like we don't want to miss any exercise. So for that purpose, ARBI is still the best.
Thank you, Francis. Sarah, we often hear that recovery isn't something a person does alone. What have you seen at ARBI or beyond that shows the power of community in helping people feel like they belong and are supported?
So just to roll back, like a brain injury doesn't just happen to a person, although of course it does, and it's catastrophic. It changes people's functioning in lots of ways, but it happens to an entire system. It happens to a family, it happens to workplaces, right? It's a whole system or a ripple effect of people that brain injury impacts, and those closest to them, kind of closest to the center, if we're going to use that analogy, are usually the ones impacted the most. And so keeping in mind the broader community, of course it's important that we enfold and create programming and also see the impact of brain injury, not only just on immediate family, potentially, or children or spouses, but also workplaces and out in the community. And I think Aroha alluded to this as well. Not very many people know what it's like to have a brain injury or a stroke. They don't encounter anybody in their family, or they haven't had personal experience. And so often, even coming through the doors, people and their caregivers are like, I had no idea that this was a thing. I had no idea that this is what it was like, or that this is what rehab is like. I had no idea a place like this even existed or was needed. And so I think when we're thinking about community and developing community education and then enfolding are two words that I kind of think of. And again, two things that I think ARBI does exceptionally well. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Dr. Ducalo, your research explores some of the most innovative medical approaches to stroke, brain injury recovery. How can those clinical advances work hand in hand with community-based programs like ARBI to support long-term healing and improve quality of life?
Sounds like a loaded question. So, I mean, we do a range of different potential interventions to try to help people get better after stroke and brain injury. And the way that we structure the program, or my program, is we try to test interventions across the continuum of care. Meaning, right now we have a drug trial running for patients who are in acute care, and so inpatients. And that's because we think, based on the science, the testing that's gone on, that drug actually works best in the first 2 to 3 months after a stroke. But on the other end of the spectrum, we just came through a trial in aphasia, so people who have difficulty communicating, that was targeting folks who were more than 6 months after their stroke. And it was a successful trial using something called repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation. We've also just come through a trial that looked at something called split belt virtual reality treadmill walking, which is just a very fancy treadmill that I got bored in over the course of the pandemic, and we had $500,000, so we built it. And it turns out it works. And so now we're trying to set up a trial around that. And so we tend to reach out to the community and look for folks with respect to those trials becoming involved in that research. But across Canada, we're through something called CanStroke Recovery Trials, which is our national stroke rehabilitation clinical trial platform. We're starting what we call patient partners. It's called CanSpec. And so inviting people who've had stroke or brain injury in the community to come in and tell us what are the research questions they want us to be trying to answer. And there's going to be some discussion because some things maybe aren't reasonable or we can't get to now, and some things are more difficult to get funding. You know, for every research idea, if you have an intervention, it's millions and millions of dollars in research funding for us to get it to a point where you can go down to the pharmacy or you can go to a place that provides outpatient rehab and get that therapy, essentially. But there's opportunities to contribute both as a participant in a research study, also as someone to give feedback on what you'd like to see in terms of the research that we do. And in Calgary, we're leading nationally in stroke, and my colleague, Dr. Diebert, has similar leadership in terms of traumatic brain injury as well. And so there's lots of, I think, opportunities to get involved.
A follow-up question I have for you, Dr. Ducalo, is, you talk about all of what we're hearing about ARBI here. My question is, why aren't there more organizations like ARBI across Canada?
That's a good question. It's also another loaded question, thank you. So there's very few across the country, and I think that's because it's difficult. I mean, this place was built on a hope and a dream. We rewind how many, almost 50, I was going to say, so almost 50 years, built really on a dream that we could do better for folks who had a brain injury than what the system was supplying at the moment. And a ton of hard work that's been put behind fundraising over the years to keep the lights on and keep the doors open. And I think that's got to continue. And just as you go from province to province, city to city, there just hasn't been a coalescence of people who do that. And we're very fortunate in Calgary because of the Petroleum Club, because we have people who engage in philanthropy and are able to provide the types of donations that allow the lights to stay on, for you to come and work with the therapists here so that people can get better. And so I haven't seen that. I've worked in a lot of different places in the country. I visit a lot of different places in the country because for our clinical trials, we have sites coast to coast, and I drop in, and there just hasn't been a group of people that are able to carry that out. And so it's a big, I think, it's a big commentary on how important that sense of community is within Calgary and surrounding area.
Thank you. Thank you. My last question is kind of a closing round here, and then we're going to open it up to questions from the audience. But if there's one message you'd like the audience to walk away with today about recovery, resilience, or the role of community, what would it be? Anybody want to go first on that?
Yeah, I go first. We are actually very fortunate to have ARBI, okay? And then the other thing is the family, the community should actually support things like any clients that come here, because not every recovery is at the same speed. Some are faster, some are slower, but we are actually very fortunate, so we should not give up, and we should push and follow up. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis.
I do have one, and I've always thought if I win the lotto, hey, I'll give some money to ARBIs and keep the lights on.
We'll take it.
That would be my last thought for people, because it's a place for people to go and give purpose to their lives every day, because for me, I'll never be able to go backwards and do the things that I used to be able to do. So being able to keep moving forward is a great thing. But when you win the lotto, folks, give some money over to keep this place open and keep the lights on. That would be my thought.
Thanks, Aroha. Ted, any sort of final thought or message you'd like folks to walk away with today?
I could write Ulysses on thoughts about this, but let's just go with, I'm going to say that my grandfather at 75 taught himself saxophone, and actually I've been speaking with an 80-year-old back home who has taught himself Facebook and runs the Facebook account for my GA club back home. So I suppose that will be reinforced by my thoughts on this, that every day is a school day as long as you're willing to learn.
Very nice. I like that. Every day is a school day as long as you're willing to learn. I'm going to remember that one. Thank you.
Can you read the question one more time?
The question, if there's one message you'd like the audience to walk away with today about recovery, resilience, or the role of community, what would it be?
Yeah, I think what brain injury recovery needs, and I think we know that it needs some science, and that's why we have this guy. But it also needs compassion, and a place like ARBI reeks of it. Like, we need a heart and a head to be able to manage the complexities of neuro rehab and recovery, and then kind of that foray into community. And I think, again, a place like ARBI is unique because it has both pieces and does both pieces really well. And I think, obviously, we need the medical system, and we need really solid physicians like Dr. Ducolo, and we need neurosurgeons, and we need all of this. But then what we need moving into community is a lot of heart, and this place has it, and can offer kind of that piece really well. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Ducolo.
I'll keep it short. Never give up.
All right. Questions. Do we have questions from the audience? Thank you.
That was really good. That's don't quit. Anyone, if you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll come to you. All right. Jennifer?
Yes, I'd just like you to repeat the website or about the studies. You said can stroke and a bunch of information, but I missed the rest.
So our website for can stroke recovery trials, if you just, it's canadianstroke.ca.
There you go.
Any other questions over this side? I can run a mic to you as well. I have a question for Dr. Ducolo and just perspective. I've often had people say to me that, well, I just had a stroke, it wasn't a brain injury. Do you hear that as well? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I do, and it's interesting. If you go across the country, you could have the same damage to your brain and be on a stroke unit or a brain injury unit. It could be called an acquired brain injury unit. How we define things is, in some cases, very fluid, and in some cases relates more to the resources that are available on a particular unit. So, yes, stroke's a brain injury. We talk about traumatic brain injury, acquired brain injury. Most people would say a stroke is an acquired brain injury.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other questions at the back?
I'm coming to you.
I have a question, Ted. We talked individually, and I just thought it was an interesting take that a lot of people notice the disability and assume that you need help, and you made a note that you don't always need help, and I'm just wondering what's the best way for people to ask you or to not put that light on you all the time?
Thank you for bringing that up, because you know what, I love Canadians, but you're also friggin' friendly. They'll see a they'll see a clearly disabled person trying to get through a door, and they will spill their coffee, go over and open the door for you. Like, thank you.
And then say sorry.
And then say sorry. So I actually, there's been a few people who've just come up to me and said, do you need help? And I'm like, I usually just say, I just need a pair of legs at work, but yours will be fine. But, yeah, so I'm good, but thank you. So I'm polite to these people who are polite to me. So yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. Because yeah, just be nice to people who are, in my case, clearly disabled, and if they need help, they'll look for it. They'll ask for it. Yeah. So thank you.
By the laughter, I'm very clear to me that you're understanding Ted's Irish accent, along with his sense of humor that goes with that. Thank you, Ted. Any other questions? Yes, Ed.
Just wondering on the whole brain injury scene. I've noticed that there's gaps or some gaps that we have on the brain injury scene. With all the experience that you've had, can you name a gap or two and how it could possibly be filled? Or 3 or 4 or 5 gaps?
Perfect. There are large gaps. That's a very good question. It's interesting when we talk about brain injury. As we reviewed before, often there's stroke and there's brain injury, and if you look at the evidence that's been done in stroke, and I'll talk about ischemic stroke, so a clotting type of stroke, most of that evidence for what we do with the upper limb, the lower limb, speech problems, visual spatial problems, that gets taken over for individuals who've had a traumatic brain injury, so someone who's had a car accident or a fall, and it gets used as if it's the gospel. But for the most part, we actually don't have studies. So the number of studies that are actually done in traumatic brain injury are very, very small. If you look, my colleague Bob Teasel in London, Ontario at Western publishes a website, and it's ebrsr.com. And you can look, and there are probably 1,000 or 1,200 pages summarizing probably at this point close to 10,000 different clinical trials in stroke. If you look at the brain injury version of that website, which is called ARBI, and I apologize, I just can't remember the website name off the top of my head. The ARBI has a few hundred trials and is probably under 100 pages. So there are lots of opportunities to go and look across all of the things. So, yeah.
I think there's big gaps in mental health, and again, bias professionally, but I think regardless of etiology, we don't necessarily have solid avenues or programs for individuals with traumatic brain injury or stroke to access mental health resources when they need them. In particular, sometimes the kind of the subtleties of neurobehavioral symptoms that sometimes look like mental health but might actually just be brain injury, but we just don't have good avenues to kind of assess early as well as late. And so we often have people with acute mental health stuff going on, and we just don't have the best way to triage them and get them through the doors to make sure that they get what they need. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
And sometimes our psychiatrists aren't comfortable with patients with brain injury or stroke. And I had this happen to me last week in clinic, where a psychiatrist asked me how comfortable I was about psychiatric issues and medications, because I know more about stroke than they do. And could I actually put them in touch with another psychiatrist who is more comfortable with these issues? So not only do we have access issues, we actually have expertise issues in the community.
Can I add one more piece to that?
Keep going.
Related to that, I think our healthcare system is beautiful at scooping people up, and we treat them and triage them really quickly, but then our folks get kind of siloed into these areas of medicine, whether it's phys med, whether it's neuro, but then if they have other presenting concerns like psychiatry, they land up kind of, I don't know, like pinballing through various services and actually never getting the service they need. Because either somebody's not familiar with brain injury, they don't actually realize the brain injury pieces versus maybe the other pieces, and so they just land up, you know, I don't know, like appointment fatigue. They go to a neurologist, they see a physiatrist, they see a psychiatrist, and nobody's actually nailed it, you know, for them. That's it.
Yes, Jaira.
Dr. Duglo, I work here at ARBI, and how could ARBI support more into that research gap? As a facility where we provide what I've heard and what I've seen here in my working years here, how we could support that research gap.
So, sorry. I think probably I need to drop some of my research team down here to talk to you guys about the studies that are ongoing. The brain-computer interface presentation before this, I apologize, it was another meeting. But we actually have a trial going on for chronic stroke that'll be starting in the fall that'll use brain-computer interfaces, involve virtual reality and robotic arm therapy. And so I suspect there's going to be people who are attending therapy and involved with ARBI that would be eligible to participate in that trial. So, yeah, and we have other trials going on as well.
I'll be following up, most
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, over this way.
So I've heard a couple of people talk about having been at Fanning, and there was such an incredible interdisciplinary team there. And then we've heard such great things, and we're hoping to start with you guys fairly soon. We're on the waiting list. There's this really big black hole that happens between sort of active rehab and then engaging in program, where you're just out in quote-unquote community without a community. Is there anything being done to fill that gap, or do you guys have any suggestions for resources?
Choose how you vote in the next provincial election very carefully.
That doesn't go over well in the Petroleum Club fundraiser, but thank you for the comment.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that I will mention to that, and I would hope that our staff have talked to you already, are you engaged with ARBI 101?
No,
program?
not
there
yet,
yet. Okay. So one of the ways that we do fill that gap when we get referrals from another place but don't have a space open to take and begin program with you is we have a program called ARBI 101, and loosely described as a seated exercise program. It runs twice a week, and when somebody is on our waiting list and has been through the assessments, we would invite that individual to take part in ARBI 101, and that's a way to be engaged with us and to be active with us, begin getting into the routine of coming to ARBI once or twice a week, maybe gradually working up to that. But if that hasn't been brought up yet, definitely one of our team will talk to you about that. Yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions? I want to give us some time to do a little bit of mingling before we wrap up the event tonight. I think if I see no more questions, was there? Okay. What I would like to do is I'd like to invite our board chair up, Dr. Alec Hilliard, just to say a few words. And Alec, I'll hand you the mic.
Thank you, Nora. The unfortunate thing that happened tonight was that she remembered to introduce us as board directors. The last time that didn't happen, we were able to guilt her for a long time. Anyway, she said I found out this morning I was going to say a few words, so I was taking notes, and I got lots of notes. But the two words that kept coming back to me through the whole session that I wanted to say was thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys are awesome. Ted, you are among superheroes. No question about that. You all had a message that resonates so much with us at ARBI. It was very clear. We talk about creating a center for hope and resilience. We talk about everything that you spoke to. And some of the things that you said that are so motivating is that you really speak to the fact that hope is real and alive. And we can spin that so much. So really, I could go on, but I love the humor. We could get you a job as a stand-up comedian, dear. You are stunning. Anyway, there's so much that could be said that was spoken about, and the importance of family and the role of ARBI in community. And Margaret Mead did speak about it takes a community to raise a child. This is another community that's very, very active to enhance the community to be able to live with hope with a brain injury. So on behalf of the board, everybody here, thank you so very, very much for being the panel tonight And a big round of applause, please, for this panel.
Thank you, Alec. Much greatly appreciated. I would now like to invite one of our staff, Pam Snowden. She's our fund development specialist, just to share a few words about some upcoming events and activities happening.
I'll use this one. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Pam. I am the fundraiser at ARBI. Yes, Aroha, you're a stunning comedian, but you said a couple words that really touched me. You talked about creating a home and creating a home of love. And I think that at ARBI, we try and create that home of love here. But we're surrounded by love, surrounded by the love of our community that generously contributes through their volunteerism, but through donations to help us keep doing what we do. So we have a couple things coming up. I'd like to invite you to show our love to our Stampede Breakfast on July the 10th. Starting at 9 o'clock, and I know many of you have been to this event, and so we're really happy to see you again. Hopefully it'll be really hot and sunny, and the rain will stay away on that day. We also will be doing a 50-50 raffle at the Stampede Breakfast, so that's a way that you can walk home with some loot in your own pocket, but will be helping us with our fundraising at ARBI. Also coming up in the fall really, September 27th, we are doing our annual cycle ride in Banff. It's going to be epic this year. I cannot even begin to tell you how epic it's going to be. And the registration for that will be open on our website on July 1st. So I know you'll want to check that out and be part of this event. It's very significant in helping us raise funds and keep showing the love to our clients and to you, our supporters and followers. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for the support that you've shown us.
Thank you, Pam. And just as we wrap up, we did have a thank you gift that we would like to present to each of our panelists today. So I'm going to ask the team to come up if they're ready. Yes? Okay. Come on up. What we have and what we're presenting to each of our panelists is a gift that's been made by one of ARBI's former clients. And he does a tremendous amount of woodwork, making incredible things out of just scraps of wood that have been brought to him. And so each of these is custom made by Howard. He is a former client of ARBI who is a stroke survivor and has pretty lasting significant aphasia. And turning wood is one of the things that he spends a lot of his time doing. And he has expanded this year into birdhouses. So for those of you that got the birdhouse, I hope you've got a good place to hang that. If perhaps you don't, maybe you can swap with somebody next to you. Hopefully that doesn't create chaos. But just a tremendous thanks from the bottom of my heart to all of you for being here and sharing your experience and your stories and supporting us in the work that we do at ARBI as well. We're tremendously grateful for that. Thank you. And I do want to give just one more shout out and thank you to all of the staff that helped to get ready for today. And just the biggest shout out to Aubrey at the back of the room. She, as I said, she was the mastermind behind this event and bringing it all together, and just really grateful for all of you to support us today. Thank you, and I hope you'll stick around for a few more minutes, and happy to enjoy some conversation. Thanks.